Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 4, Episode 35. I am your host, Alejandro, and finally making his unforeseen, long awaited return. This was not planned. It, of
Hey
course,
everybody, I survived.
yeah,
I survived. That
yeah,
is holy smokes, y'all.
somehow, yeah,
It's wild out
yes.
here. I move 3 to 4 states away, depending on your math, and I get blasted by the worst hurricane that North Carolina has probably ever seen.
That like,
That
the joke writes itself. It's insane
It's
that you
not even
literally,
a hurricane that went like and hit us from the east like you would expect, but it went through the Gulf of Mexico, tore through all of those states just to get to me.
and
Oh
then you
my
had to,
goodness, the
and you had to
devastation.
evacuate, and you had to evacuate also. That's what
Yeah.
it's wild to think about. Like, it's like the hurricane, kind of like the hurricane lock. It's like the joke writes itself. It's like you're a survivor of Katrina. You survived Ida 3 years ago. You
Yep.
literally were like, no, I want to move away from like the hurricanes, and somehow you got to like North Carolina's worst hurricane like pursue you. It's that's like you can't ride this. It's like there's a hurricane curse pursuing you. That's the
I
curse of being
know.
a 6'5" giant.
I am a crime against nature, and therefore the world cannot be okay with me existing in peace.
Yeah. Yeah, at least
Holy
you can tell baby Emrys whenever he grows up, he's like, hey, in your first year of existence, you survived the hurricane.
Yeah,
So, oh yeah.
he's gonna get an inflated head from surviving that one so early.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, but I'm back. Fortunately for anybody who's wondering that has not gotten the update from me yet, the
Hmm.
house is fine. We had 9 trees crossing our driveway that fell, and we had to carve ourselves out of it over the course of 2 days, partly with the help of some neighbors that were super helpful. Some of the kindest people I've ever met out here. The ones uh, before I left and after I left, they were keeping me updated whenever they had cell phone reception. And we're just like, "Yep, we're still out of power, but we have what we need," and that's. Just like they were super humble about it. It was
Hmm.
ridiculous and so wholesome. But yeah, we were in a high place, so no flooding, and super appreciative of that. And just yesterday, we got power and water because we're on well, and
Hmm.
water requires power to pump it up here. I didn't
Hmm.
really think much about that, but that's a thing. And just late yesterday, we got internet. So back at full speed.
Yes. No, I literally had already aligned some guests for this week just in case, like, because I was like, how are you still doing? Because I know that last week, like, Helene had already passed, but that's when that was like the afterglow of Helene. So you needed to kind of be like, yeah, I'm not gonna force it right now. I'm not gonna force him right now. I know he's still kind of like recovering from that because it's like that storm was really, literally no joke. As is Milton, Storm Milton. That's like, as if I was recording, it's like it's supposed to hit like in a couple hours. That one, it terrifies me for what's happening
Oh
over
my gosh.
in Florida, because that one is a Katrina level storm. Because what
It is
category was
beyond
Helene?
Katrina.
Yeah.
Helene was a category 4 when it made landfall and then slowly dropped down. When it hit us, I don't even think it was a hurricane anymore. That's the crazy part.
Mm,
But there's a whole really unique thing that happened with Helene. For this one with Milton, it is worse than Katrina
mm-hmm,
because Katrina was a 5 that dropped down to a 3 right as it hit.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then obviously kind of went on to do its thing. It's funny. Yeah, actually, there was a point you had mentioned in our group chat of, oh yeah, there's like more than I think it was like 2 massive hurricanes hitting in such a short amount of time. And a lot of
mm-hmm.
people forget the year Katrina hit, there was another hurricane that hit right after it called Rita that nobody remembers. And I think
Ooh.
it was a month. I think it was just a month after Katrina. It was like a cat one or something. Nothing like crazy, crazy, but it's just the fact that everybody was still recovering, and then we got hit by a second hurricane right over us.
Mm.
Um, was crazy. But anyway, yeah. As far as Milton goes, that is horrific because of the line that somebody said. We're like, this is reaching the
Exceeds the line.
levels like mathematically possible for water to move
Mm.
like this. That
Yeah.
was like that is bad. I can't even just comprehend how bad that is. So my heart
Mhm.
really goes out to all those people, and I feel almost like survivor guilt that I got off so easily,
Mhm.
compared to all of that. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're out here, and we're gonna talk about video games today.
Yes, because at least that's always why I love why our channel is called Escape. Because this is just like you get
That's
to
what it
escape,
is.
yeah, you get to escape a little bit from the terrors of outside. So and it's so wild this is happening so close, especially so close to the election day. So it's like, can we handle even more nightmares at this point? So it's like, yeah, can we just like
Hmm.
live? Can you? I love the. Have you been seeing those memes? On Twitter, it's like, hey, people
Which
born from
ones?
the 1990s to 2005. How are you?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
how are you? Are you dealing? And those memes have been so relatable.
the one I contributed was the objective survive from Halo Reach.
Yes,
Um,
that was why
but
I was crying tears for that one because
all of the rest of those is just, man, people are going through it. My
mm,
gosh.
yeah,
Oof.
man, what would we do to deserve us in our 30s to be hit with all this?
I
So
don't know, but boy, am I looking forward to the day when we get to, I don't know, take over and maybe make things a little better.
yeah,
Maybe I'm being a little optimistic
or
here.
just to sit back and be and just kind of like breathe a sigh of relief of like, okay, I guess we get a little peace and quiet right now from nonsense. But
Something
it
like
just feels
that.
like there's always fires everywhere. But hey, we're here to try to kind of at least just escape a little bit of reality and then just talk about video games because this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escape gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, time to talk about what we've been playing, Paul. I know you've been playing quite a bit, but I also kind of have to mention that what an incredibly bad luck streak from this Sunday to Monday of like you getting
Mm.
confused by preload
Two
times two
separate
times.
situations. I mean, it's fixed now,
Yeah.
sort of. But yeah, so I'll run through that real quick because, of course, I was preparing myself to go into what I expected was non-internet, potentially not even having power when I drove back in town. Obviously, as you can see, I have power, so that was one thing solved. But I did not have internet, so I was thinking, uh, I need to download as much stuff as possible so that the situation that happened when I moved
Mhm.
the first time up here does not repeat itself. So I downloaded as much as I could, and I was really hoping I could download Metaphor. So we did we buy it already?
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
bought
okay,
it.
good. I
Yeah.
was just kind of gaslighting myself for a second. Just did I pay for that? Anyway,
Yeah, that was
yeah. So
your
we download.
that was your make good. So that was your make good
Yeah,
for Space Marine. But yeah,
right.
continue.
Our debt is settled.
Yes.
So I buy it, and I was really hoping that Metaphor would let me download it beforehand. I know it's pretty. It was like a whole week beforehand, so I didn't really think it was, but I was disappointed still that I couldn't download Metaphor to get ready for everything. And then just yesterday, I had this moment of just for lack of a better term, it was like a manic episode of like, I need something new to play. I need something new to play. So I had this moment where, wait, I read this article on Games Radar. I'm calling you hacks out. Um, and if you look at the article, all of the
Explanations.
comments
Huh?
are people going, you are straight up lying to people, and of course nothing ever happened out of it. Anyway, I read it on Games Radar that if you just pre-order any version, the standard, the deluxe, or the ultimate edition, you get the game for 3 days early on October 7th,
Mhm.
except in certain areas, and then you get it on October 8th, whatever. Which I went, fantastic. Should have checked more sources because I went to Alejandro and went, what if we just split this real quick? I could download it
Mhm.
immediately. I get to play it while I'm there. No internet needed. I have something new to play. Yeah, Alejandro jumped on it immediately. Bless his heart. I went into the process, bought the thing, went to download it, and it said auto download date October 8th. And I went, pardon me, sir, but you said that the game comes out October 7th at
Mhm.
6 p.m. at Eastern Daylight Savings Time. But you can't let me download it until after the game comes out. Well, lo and behold, everywhere else, including PlayStation's own PSN, whatever it's called, says, oh no, that's only for the Ultimate Edition and Deluxe Edition that you get the game 3 days early. Standard definition is October 11th. And boy, was I not happy about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and especially like why that stings so much more is the fact that in pre-order period, if you buy one of those editions, Sony for some reason is not allowing
It's
you to kind of like
unavailable.
to make available the other editions, or be like, because they used to do this. You could like pre-order the early edition and then maybe just sneak in like the rest of the money. It would actually allow you to kind of like pay for the rest. Now, no, if you have ordered one of those editions, you have to wait until release time to be able to do the upgrade for that. And what's been so annoying is the fact that I've been watching so many videos of Sparkling Zero. It's like it feels like it's a gaming moment of this year.
Yep.
Like it is so like I'm seeing people joking about going back to church for things. They our buddy Sebastian, he's currently in Europe. He's saying that he went to a bar that's like Dragon Ball themed, and they're gonna be having tournaments playing that game. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about this damn ape boss that it's like the FOMO is hitting me so hard that I'm like, damn it, do we really have to wait 2 more days to play that game? It's like it really feels like yes, I know that you can say anything you want about nostalgia, but it's just the fact that it's so wholesome seeing people love, like, be so hyped for this kind of game, because it gives me hope for humanity that is like the love for like or our unfettered love for games nowadays is not just exclusive to like a Souls game or whatever pretentious over the shoulder cinematic thing the critics deem like the big thing. It's like the thing to rally about. It's like I've been really enjoying, especially that's been the thing that I've been doing most of this year, the things that people have kind of like taken to what has rallied people together to kind of like be a just fun time, like as a community, to just kind of like rally behind a game regardless of high reviews or anything. And I feel Sparkling Zero is another one of those games, kind of similar to Helldivers 2 earlier this year, and it has the weight of the fact that the Sparkling Zero is Budokai 4, and people have not had a Budokai game since PS2, 3 generations. So oh man, too bad we're recording on Wednesday, so it's like we have to wait 2 more days for that one. But as we wait for that, Paul, and also we wait for the Metaphor the full release of Metaphor, which the review embargo lifted this week also, and it landed at a 94 a 94 Metacritic and 95 OpenCritic, which is also the same score that where Astrobot kind of landed. I'm like, oh yeah, another banger in the dry year, which we'll definitely talk about later. So it's like it's so funny to be like, yep. And you did play the demo. Did you finish the demo?
I did finish the demo.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on the 6 hour on the game length of the small game length demo?
I think mine ended up being like 6.5 hours, which is just insane. I think the only one that beats it was Dragon Quest 11.
Dragon Quest 11 is a little longer. It's 10 hours.
Yeah, right. But that was like, doesn't it like cap out at 10 hours no matter where you are?
I think I don't remember if it caps
like
out.
the Resident Evil did or something. Like you get to play 10 hours and then it just ends when you reach it, or was it like a story thing?
I remember. I think it's like if I remember correctly, there's a specific story point that happens 10 hours in that then stops and be like, hey, you want to continue by the thing. That I do remember.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, I was spoiled for this one because I was sitting back just playing through what I felt like was just the genuine opening of the game. It was solid, and it's funny hearing now there's a few people that were actually complaining about the demo feeling boring or bland, and I was just like,
or long.
Y'all clearly did not go through those early days of Persona 5 where you had to play through about 12 to 15 hours of the game before it actually let you do anything really of note besides just keep you on rails. And this one, I mean, you're getting through the whole prologue in 6.5 hours, and then the whole game supposedly opens up. I mean, that's what everybody says that happens. I haven't seen it, obviously, but going through I'm just going to try to like piece together some of my individual thoughts there. Let's start with the world itself. I think the caption that I did when I sent you the money for it was 60s Final Fantasy.
Yes.
And I sit back and I think about how you come up with something that insane of a like blending of the like clearly if you look at all of the fashion for most of the characters, it is some variation of like 1960s, with especially like the blonde character looks
Mm-hmm.
very 60s in her outfit, but I mean like the coats, the weird blend of all of the fashion is crazy. The weird psychedelic like enemies at times. There's one of the archetypes that you get that just looks like an absolute kaleidoscope that just burns my brain trying to look at it. Um, I don't even know how you begin to go. We're going to take this concept and just go fantasy, and you come up with what we have here. But it is a game that does not look like anything else I've ever seen. And it is creepy, it is weird, and usually I'm not one for like this game is really weird, I love it. I'm a real boring white bread kind of guy,
Yeah.
what can I say? um but at the same time, this is just really addicting to look at. I mean, you have
Style.
a charm on your sword that lets you ride it like a skateboard. You have really crazy ships that walk on chicken legs but can also fly. You have the crazy Majora's Mask sky magic that goes, hey, if you want to become the king, you need to be the most loved person in the entire country, and it'll naturally just connect that to how powerful you are in our social standing network. And it is just, I love it. It's so creative. I appreciate everything about it. And for all the people that are going to say, "Oh, it's just Persona," but like it's the same game, but no, it is not, because
It's
it takes the
evolved.
concepts. It is so much more evolved out of that. And while a lot of people were like, "Oh, the archetypes are just personas," that is also not true because you can completely change not just your character, which I thought that was the case in the demo, but you can change everybody's archetype into completely anything. So like the main guy Stole has the warrior class, but you can give him the healer. You can make him the monk. You can make him whatever you want, but you can make anybody whatever you want to completely dial in exactly what you need out of that. And while it still has the day system, I felt like it was, I don't want to say simplified, but you have less spaces as like Persona. It was during the morning, you had the afternoon, and then the evening. But this time, it's just the daytime and nighttime cycles where you get to do stuff. And the combat is just flows so well from one into the next. You kind of have this blend of a little bit of hack and slash right at the start, where you get to actually hit the enemy like you're in Dynasty Warriors. And if you lower their little stamina bar, you get to jump into the turn-based part at a
And
huge
finishing them off.
advantage.
Mhm.
Love that concept. And then what I really appreciated is as you get stronger, which was a Dragon Quest thing, you can just bowl over regular enemies, and you don't even have to waste your time or waste your resources. You just run in, you keep hitting them, and they die in one hit, and you move on with your life. Fantastic decision. Takes so much of the frustration out of like fighting all of these weakling characters or whatever. And I I feel like it respects my time a lot more than Persona ever did,
Mhm.
because of that reason alone. But even beyond that, just everything that you can do, the variety that you're allowed to have. I think I said where you can, because it's not just Japan in a high school. So just already your variety of characters that you can have with you is a lot. On top of that, you got all of these different fantasy races. Humans, as you know them, are not a thing at
Mhm.
all. Everybody is some variety of a different creature, whether it's like you've got horns, you got people with like wings on their head, you've got animals. Excuse me, actual animals on top of the people that just have animal features, and creatures of the night that are horrific and horrifying and destroy everything in their path, and they're supposedly called humans. Which it leads me into a little bit of that. Everything is on the nose here. We are not subtle in the land of Atlas
Yeah.
and the games it creates, but we were never really subtle in that way. However, lack of subtlety does not mean lack of depth. And that
Hmm.
is a very important thing for us to remember going into
Yeah.
this, because Persona 5 is not a subtle game, but it is an extremely deep game, especially in its characterization and
Hmm.
especially in the
And the
way
themes it
everybody's written.
tackles. And the
And the
themes it
themes it
tackles. Yeah.
tackles, I don't think I'd ever seen like a that crazy of a situation as far as like the opening act of Persona 5 with just Kamoshida and everything that surrounds him,
Yep.
and what kind of comes about from that was super real and super uncomfortable. But the way it's like, this world is horrible, but we're going to give you the power to actually change it. And that was like a really nice, like, oh, we're going to be idealistic about this. It's kind of the Superman thing all over again.
Hmm.
You call Superman boring because people don't write him very well. But this is that kind of situation where it's like, the world is just like you know it. Everybody's super racist. The politics are super corrupt. Everybody's horrible. And we are going to give you the power to actually change that for the
And
better.
take a stand,
And
basically.
take a stand, yeah. And I love that the little screenshot that we saw where it's like, talking to other people of different beliefs will improve your tolerance. And I was like, you just slap that on the side of every
Yeah.
building I
I
pass
love,
by.
yeah, I just love that in the year of 2024, where discourse has just gotten so horrifically tiring from like the bad faith commentators, especially from a certain wing, political wing party, that I just love that we have a game and metaphor from Japan that's like so blatantly a game about a presidential election almost, and deals with all the topics like head on that usually come up when that kind of certain like landscape is kind of like what's being felt. And I just love that they just didn't care, they didn't like tone it down, they just went for it, because kind of like how you were mentioning that it's a metaphor is not about subtlety, it's about dealing with things head on, and by dealing with those things head on, it can like actually create legit conversations, because you're just not shying away from from deep storytelling. That to me is like the beauty of art and the beauty of games. Like I love when art can be challenging but also earnest in how it approaches it. Because probably the best thing on in the thing that I played with the, which by the way I haven't finished it because I was like, I don't want another Final Fantasy 16 situation where I was left with the blue balls of finishing the thing and having to wait two
I
weeks.
will say it. Wait, where did you get then?
I played 2 hours. I don't remember exactly where I
Oh, you
played.
didn't get very far at all then.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
I caught a vibe of the
Okay,
thing.
yeah,
I was able to catch the vibe where it was. And I was like, oh, I know I'm in. I'm gonna
yeah,
save this for 2 days
good.
before the
Okay,
preload opens, and I'm gonna just play it all at once. Like, because I was like,
all right, I
I'll
respect it.
I'll never forget the highs of the FF16 demo. The best still to this day, like one of the greatest demos that I have ever played, and selling me so hard on the full game. But then like having those 12 days of waiting, and then starting after those highs have come out, it kind of kicked us all back up in that game, kind of like a relatively low ebb after like the amazing highs. So I was like,
Hmm.
you know what, like instead I'd rather, I know that I like this, I know I'm gonna play this, we bought it, I'm gonna now save this as like when I finish playing the thing that I'm replaying. uh, I just kind of want to just segue through it and not have to wait and just kind of like take it in, because these are the kind of games I remember. Like I have not finished Persona 5 because who finishes it? It's so damn long. But it's a game when you're kind of in, it's hard for it to let you go. It can be so engrossing until you start thinking about the length of time that you've been in there. But me knowing that I'm much more of a fantasy nut than I am high school, and I know that at least just on the topic alone and the themes that is going to be tackling, and having that be reconfirmed by the reviews that this thing got, like so high reviews, that I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm in. I just want to. I don't want to like this uninterrupt. Like I don't want to interrupt this fully, because you know me. What happens when I'm like, I have to distract myself from like being in the mood of something. It just like
Hmm.
it just affects it. So I know myself better now to just
Yeah.
understand that. But I'm so in for
If
metaphor.
you'd played through all of it and you'd gotten to the end, I guarantee you would have like, I need something like this, and you'd have booted up like Persona 3 Reload or something.
Yeah,
Because
and I'm glad
you
that I
would have
did.
immediately like just been derailed completely,
Yeah.
because it had a lot of good stuff happen. Like I think I mentioned, oh, the climax of the prologue is ramping up, and there's like
Mhm.
a whole crazy situation like what we saw in the trailers with the whole thing showing up and people talk about. There's a lot of stuff that happens right before that and right after
Mhm.
that that's just insane. um just seeing like these events unfold and how it unfolds is just great. I'm glad I got them out of the way to like jump into the game, but I
Mhm.
also feel like I'm really well primed for what's going on.
Yeah.
There was only one thing that I didn't quite do. There was a really hard optional boss fight of some kind when you're going through this cave, and I tried so hard to fight it. And I
Yeah.
got
And it was
so close one of the times. And then ever since that, it was just diminishing returns trying it. And I gave up and I was like, I'm just going to do the rest of this. I don't even know if I could have gone back to fight it
Mhm.
now, but I hope I could. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all it is to say. It's so varied compared to what I was expecting. Because as we've talked about it, I had zero interest in Metaphor. I
Mhm.
didn't want to jump into it. I didn't want it. I knew Dragon Age was coming out at the end of the month, and then suddenly I was sitting here like, oh, I have nothing
Yeah.
else to really do. I don't want to play any of the other stuff that I had. This seems like it's going to be good, and like you said, if I don't jump on now, I'm going to miss out on a lot of the
Yeah. And there's also the
uh,
fact that there's incognito towards Dragon Age, because like yes, the previews were positive, but it's like the state of play demo for that thing really popped the balloon a little bit in my excitement and brought me back to will this be as great as the previous that got a slice of the game like said. Like it's still like Bioware is still not, to me it's like they still have to prove to us that it's back. And we know now, we have tried Metaphor, we've seen Metaphor, we see how Metaphor reviewed, so it's like now you know that's like a guaranteed banger worthy of the time, so that makes it different. And also your parenthood era and you finishing Unicorn
that
Overlord
was another thing.
recently, that has kind of like recalibrated like you liking turn-based stuff because of how you have to deal with games now that you're kind of juggling a baby and like and being a parent. So it's like that's probably kind of like what hit different. And I always knew heading into like the fall that if there was always gonna be like a game outside of like Asteroid that was gonna hit in the highs of critical acclaim of like something that is that's kind of like a bomb of quality, it was gonna be that one. So the reviews didn't surprise me at all. So I cannot wait for like the full game to hit and see. I want to see like at this point, like I feel like my game of the year is on lock. Like that's 335 hours that has locked that in, that sucker in like with no problem. But
Like
I've
if
also,
it didn't, I feel like you would be disappointed.
yeah.
Like what did I waste all these hours for if it's not my game of the year?
Yeah, that was kind of like my thought about it because it was still the game, but I still once in a while turn it back on just to run around the world and just swing sword at orcs and at the grasslands and hear the amazing music. I love Reaver so much, but just from what I saw, like at least from story and narrative, like what Metaphor is doing, I feel like Metaphor is gonna clear, like it's gonna clock Rebirth, like in the neck when it comes to like actual story and what it's tackling. Because the story of Rebirth at its core is pretty basic. It's just the time spent with characters, the amazing like the amazing mini stories you get with the party that you build in your adventures. Like it's so strong, but this one has like for people that felt like Rebirth was like lacking more in the bird's side view plot that only big stuff happens near the end. I feel Metaphor could give that for those people, and I can't wait to see if it does anything for me. I know for sure that that's for sure the thing I'm most anticipated on. Let me jump in real quick to the other game that came out that came out early this week that I actually started playing on Sunday because I did pay for early access thanks to PS Stars giving me some points that have that I have kind of raked in to kind of like make that early access cleaner. I've been playing Silent Hill 2, the remake. This was a remake that I think out of any old game that has been getting a remake, I've never seen a game more with more skepticism for its existence than this one. It was made by Bloober Team, the guys that made the Medium, which was not very good. Same as the Layers of Fears game. So it's like it was already a very questionable developer choice for it. Silent Hill 2 is considered one of like the marquee survival horror games like of all time, especially in those like late 90s, early 2000s, as that genre started to solidify itself more as a classic, and especially Silent Hill as one of the greats in that genre. So it was like giving it to Bloober Team on a Konami that still hasn't proven to us that they still got what it takes to like release a quality game. Uh, there's like the skepticism was high. Like even some people, I remember you were hearing. I think you read the same tweet that I saw. I was saying something like this remake feels like a one step forward to one step back kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was like there was so much negativity surrounding this remake, like deservedly so, based on like how it looked initially. It kept looking better with every subsequent look. That's the thing that I always kept noticing. I was like, I remember looking at it, that game in January. It's like, this looks kind of suspect. Then I looked at it again when they did like a 30-minute uninterrupted demo of the thing. That was like, there might be something here. Then the preview beat that happened like in August. I was like, did they actually did it? Like, the Bluebird team actually like nailed this one? Because this is like because I remember this, but I was like, I remain skeptical because I remain just as skeptical of this guy as I'm remaining with Bioware. And then the reviews hit, and I was like, I remember it's like we were talking in our chat with Sebastian. It was like, yeah, this one doesn't look that great. Maybe it will be like a 7 something, 87. It lands. It was like, oh, so it's actually much higher than I was anticipating. What the frick? Okay, I guess I'm gonna try it. And so I bought it, downloaded it, and it is a masterful survival horror like experience from atmosphere, tone, music, vibe. It is so darn creepy a game. So creepy, in fact, that I don't remember playing a survival horror game in recent times that I constantly am like, I need a break. I need a break. This is too much. This is very oppressive. There's like this weird deformed monsters that kind of pop out of nowhere. That sometimes you can get you can get a little bit of a clue that those monsters are kind of in, because sometimes you can pick like a radio that kind of gives you, if you play the PT demo from 2014, you hear those exact same sounds that I was like, gosh, man, I remember this from PT because that was supposed to be a Silent Hill game. And remembering that, so I'm already feeling very unnerved. It's like, it's set dressing, it's like visuals are like so creepy that it's like I've legit gotten like scared and like and like tensed up in things that come out of nowhere. And unlike a Resident Evil game that can break that tension with a one-liner, with a maybe overpowered gun, or Leon S. Kennedy like throwing a kick in the a kick to a zombie and throwing like a one-liner, it's like, no, Silent Hill 2 is like oppressive. It is like intentionally miserable, like by default, because it's like it's very creepy and also tries dealing with very serious subject matter, like in a way that it's actually pretty affecting, and how all of that is kind of like being put as like the monsters you fight and like the design of those monsters are that you don't know if they're real or not. It's kind of like put into kind of like the emotional gauntlet that puts the character Jason Sutherland, I think is his name, kind of you kind of go through. There's no moments of levity. It's like a pretty serious, pretty kind of distressing experience that for people that really love to be scared for survival horror stuff, I cannot recommend this enough. I also, if you're very prone to be scared, like Paul, if you thought Alan Wake 2 was scary and that thing pushed the limit in some sections, like Grandma, imagine that sense of dread of the Grandma section, kind of like, and that's the game.
Yeah.
It's like it's very intense. It's like,
I've heard it's really bad as far as like great, but just horrifying.
Exactly.
The whole game is the creepiest parts of Alan Wake 2.
And it's like and it makes me realize, like, yeah, survival horror hasn't had like a game like this this oppressive in quite a while, maybe since the Outlast games, like in modern times. Like, it's really interesting seeing that Bloober actually nailed a survival horror game that nails the feeling of survival horror, of kind of like exploring the world, exploring, kind of like having great level design to know where to go, like it kind of subtly points you to where you need to go, but still doesn't feel like it's treating you like a moron. That'd be like, no, it's like, you have to come here, idiot. It's kind of like it gives you a lot of control to figure it out, and also giving you options if you want to turn those on, if you need things to signpost you more to the things you need to do. I feel like it's very considerate in how they designed it. I know, like I was reading Gene Park's review, and one thing that he did for this one is that he actually went to play again the original 2001 game that you can play it with the HD collection, either through Xbox backwards compatibility, or if you still have a working PS3.
I
And
was
one of
gonna
the
say you
things,
definitely can't play that on PS5.
yeah, you definitely can't, unfortunately, which is sad.
You can't even
But
play it on PC. I don't think.
I think
Not
there's an old
legally.
version. Yeah, not legally. I think you could do
Yeah,
like with some weird things to get to play that thing on
yeah.
PC and make it work.
You can
But it's
play
like
anything on PC.
yeah, it's
Technically.
like this the switch to the over the shoulder camera perspective kind of like also sacrificed a little bit of like one of the things that the more fixed camera angles of the original kind of did, because
I
it's
actually
like
did want to make a comment on that when you're done.
yes, that it was like a that game deals a lot with like sexual assault and like
Oh yeah.
depression and all that. And a lot of the way they frame a lot of that game, some of the camera perspectives and all that, and kind of like some shadows or figures kind of like representing things. It's like it deals with that like with such heavy themes that some of those have been retained in the game, but the artistic nature of the framing has kind of changed at least the feel of some of those things that obviously it was going to happen with you changing the gameplay a little bit. So he was kind of mentioning his like the changes made to the Silent Hill 2 remake makes it that if you're able to acquire the original one and at least kind of see the intent of like what made that original game so seminal, it would be a good idea to you to tough it up and see it in its original form without taking over the fact that what Bluebird Team did for this one is like at least a great alternate version representation of pretty similar bones. I own the HD collection on Xbox. I reinstalled it recently and went through the exact same sections that I played through the remake, just to kind of like compare it and kind of see. And I get kind of what he's saying. It's also wild how one-to-one perfect most areas are. I was like, is the save point here in this well in the original? It's there. Gosh, is the same first monster you see like in the exact same spot you see in the remake? It's there too. So it's one of those that at least at the very least for people that remember the original and like has been perfectly recreated for the modern era. So it's like I feel like it's like in a year to me that launches so many surprises. It's like to me the big surprise the fact that Silent Hill 2 came out good after all of this. And just earlier this year we got the short game that was kind of like put out that was so bad that everyone was like, well, it's like that's just Silent Hill because it's modern Konami. What can you expect from Konami? But I'm like, if Silent Hill 2 is this good, imagine Delta, like MGS Delta. That's been the other big remake that they've been like parroting around a lot. It's
Gosh,
like
I really hope so.
that already like made me even more hopeful for Delta now because it's like I was more skeptical of this one and it turned out great. So it's like, oh god, are we like starting the Konami's back like train? You need a couple of those. It's not just one, but it's like if that one hits two, it's like I'll start being like, maybe there's something to them then. So if you're a really big fan of survival horror that you want something to really creep you out, I definitely recommend this game. I for sure needed breaks that I've been playing Spider-Man also. But before I dive into that, like if you want to say something about other stuff that you played or it's something that you wanted to add, say it.
I did want to jump back in on the camera mention. I cannot remember if it was the director or somebody along it.
Yes, the
We're gonna
director.
figure that out. Yeah, he talked about how he really prefers the new camera style because the old one was annoying.
Yeah,
and somebody commented it was like somebody especially
the
people
purists,
who
the purists started like
said people who build their entire personality around video essays are losing their mind right now.
Yeah.
And it was just like, ooh, that's gonna burn some people up because there's so many people of like the purity of the game and like and there's even people doing it about Devil May Cry about like, oh, if you take away the fixed camera angles, you're ruining the game. And I was like, guys, like DMC is not that kind of game. It does not matter that much. It's kind of frustrating, honestly. And there's still people that are purists about it, honestly. And this is one of those cases because Silent Hill 2 has so many shooters out there, metaphorically and probably literally if I'm not careful. But I was never a Silent Hill guy, so Resident Evil was always better.
Resident Evil was always more fun by design.
Sure. Like I get it for Silent Hill, and I respect its choices to do a lot of stuff and make the game super unfun.
Yeah.
But
I get how they were like a yin and yang for survival horror. You get your campier zombie stuff, and then you get your psychological torture stuff in the other side. And I get why those were like the two different flavors of a genre. And I love that idea because it's where people that want specific flavor, like something like really dreadful, you had that. If you want something that's well designed, like more fun, you had Resident Evil. And even the Resident Evil has gotten creepy. Like, look at 7. But but it's like the level how Resident Evil can scare you is way different from Silent Hill. And I can definitely say that at least the Silent Hill 2 remake has really captured that like perfectly. So I cannot give it the props, my props to that game enough. But it's one that I was concerned because we didn't get code for that one. I was like, I told SG, if I get to finish this one, maybe I can do a review for this one, but we'll see. And then I told him yesterday, it's like, maybe I feel my tolerance for survival horror is like, I'm more of a chicken. I use the P word instead with survival horror than I was expecting, and I need a little bit more breaks, so it might come on that. So I may have to slow walk this one for a little bit because it's
That's
like,
another reason why I definitely did not want to get it because I was like, I'm not paying for this game because I'm going to be miserable at
yeah,
every minute of it.
yeah,
I
because it's
can't
tense.
handle
Yeah,
that
it's
right
tense.
now.
Yeah, maybe it would be funny. Do this. I have it. Download it. Try with Elizabeth and see like how far you can get before like you drop. You both drop. Yeah.
No, I don't know if I want to do that. Especially with the baby here, what that would freak us out. I mean, that is actually it's going to go into the other game that I really want to talk about,
Mhm.
Resident Evil 2. We're
Mhm.
revisiting that because for those that don't know, Elizabeth and I are really trying to stretch what she can handle as far as like playing any games at all ever.
Mhm.
And
Is she playing this one?
no,
Okay.
it's handle watching
Okay.
because even that is still messing her up. I told her focus on the guy with the dorky haircut. Look at the RS NC whatever it is, the thing on the RPD. There it is.
RPD.
And try to like just look at that. And sometimes she's just like, "You're moving around way too much. I got to look away." Sometimes I am because I'm like, "Where the heck is that last item in this room?" And I'm whipping my head around. But because I told myself I would mainline the game, but because you really have to, like, you can only survive based on the preparation you have by collecting everything. I
Mm-hmm.
have to get those red rooms to turn blue. I
Uh-huh.
have to. I can't move on until I've got it all.
It's such a
Um,
weird quality of life, right? That it's
yeah,
like
I
as soon as
love
it's
it
blue,
though.
you're like, okay, I don't have to look for anything else. I can move on. So,
It's such a peace of mind thing. Like, you know for a fact that you got everything and you can just mentally move on. But yeah, so we're playing through that. I'm getting to like actually explain all of it because her first Resident Evil game ever was
Village.
Resident Evil 7.
Oh,
Um,
7. I thought it was
we
Village.
played some of it. We didn't go through the whole game because it kind of loses steam partway through, and I was like, you kind of get the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played through Village completely, and I was so proud of her because even though we played it on me having infinite ammo and like one or two guns just for the
Mm-hmm.
fun of it. She just really wanted to follow the story, but she was actually really captivated by it all, really
Mm-hmm.
confused at places, didn't
Such a weird
understand
game.
what was going on. And I was like, honestly, same. You're not weirded out by any of that. You can handle anything pretty much because that's a weird game. And now we're finally going through Resident Evil 2. I want to do 3 because it's short, and I want to play 4 with her because it's just a great time. But
And it's
2
funnier.
is,
And it's also
yes,
way funnier.
so much, and it's so much more entertaining. 2 is like when you're trying to get a normie into everything, and because of how like puzzle focused and slow and methodical it is, it's like, all right, just bear with me here. I need to run back and forth across all these
Mm-hmm.
rooms. It's really fun, I promise.
Yeah, 2 is
um
definitely, yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake especially, I feel is like the perfect realization of survival horror Resident Evil, where 4 is like the more action horror side. So that's why I
Definitely.
love 2 so much
And
in that
because all
regard.
of those characters are like interact with each other and stuff and their reference to it, I'm like explaining things as we go, and it's like, oh yeah, this office is really important because it's this other character from the first game. And then explaining how that person's going to show up in the next one, and how all of that is a big deal, and these are the main characters that like you just follow through all the games. So I feel like she's been kind of like, oh, that's interesting, all right, cool, that's awesome, whatever. Like actually asking questions of like, how did this all happen, what is going on, and it's like, we're going to find out actually. And then sure enough you do. She thinks Ada is really weird, Ada Wong. um
One of
because she
us.
like shows up and it's like, why is she in a cocktail dress? Why are you playing as her now? Why does everything suck all of a sudden because I'm at that
But
part of
you
Ada?
never finished Separation Ada, right? Or Separate Ways.
No, I didn't.
Or you
Uh,
played briefly because and you were not feeling it because you were just coming back to it.
I think so,
So,
yeah. I don't like playing as Ada. I am frustrated by all that. Apparently, I looked it up later on because her part is so confusing. Because you have like the
in
weird
four.
little like card reader. No, in two, I'm talking about right
Oh,
now. Because you do play as her, and I completely forgot
yeah, I
about it.
forgot. Yeah, you
I
played with her briefly.
scrubbed
Yeah.
my memory because I hate that part. You have no healing items. They give you nothing, even on the easiest difficulty, and you just have to make it work with what you've got. And I do not feel like Ada is a prepared agent at all right now because she
Mm.
showed up with 9 bullets and a reader you can buy at your local grocery store. Um, and yeah, it's a completely different style of game suddenly, and I hate it so much. That's where we stopped briefly, just because we only get a few hours to play each night.
I'm
But
excited to hear
overall,
you finish it with her, though.
great
I'm
time.
excited.
I don't want to take up too much time. I played through most of Mafia 2 and the prologue of Mafia 3, just revisiting some old classics. Mafia 2 is a wonderful driving simulator
Uh-huh.
because all you really do is cutscene. Oh, the family. Oh, I'm Italian. Oh, and then you drive. And then you do get another cutscene, and then you drive back to the same place you were, and then you click a button to go lay down on the couch. It's just parts of it are great. The shootouts are fantastic. I love the mechanics. I was playing through the prologue, and I was like, I feel like I'm playing Sniper Elite. This is great. And then all of a sudden, it just slammed the brakes on me because I went to the jail section, and it is
Mm.
just a horrible time.
Slow, so
So
slow.
slow. Why did that take so long to get through? I played through most of my night yesterday in the jail, just walking from one objective to the next, and then you get into a fist fight like 4 different
Yeah.
times. And they're like,
Walking.
"We're gonna teach you something new," and it's the exact same move you've been using the entire game already. Oh gosh, I hate it.
Yeah.
But then you get back to it, and then you can kind of do stuff, and then there's nothing else to play in the game. So I was like, I really need some punch up. So I played Mafia 3 in the opening hours. Lincoln Clay is a fantastic
Yeah.
MC.
Mafia 3 starts so good. So good. The framing, what you
So
do, and all
sweet.
that. So,
And then yeah, then I played Frostpunk. Played through all of it.
you
I
beat it?
no.
Oh, okay.
Give me a second. I'm just kind of explaining to everybody what happened. Um, Frostpunk is a very frustrating game because you get to go into it, you start it, you're the last city in the world, it's a big deal, and yet everybody's pissed at you for everything you do, even though everything sucks all the time. Suddenly it's your fault. Who would have thought? And you can't really do anything about it. Even when you break the game in your favor, it can still destroy you because you miscalculated one thing because the devs didn't teach you how the game actually is supposed to work until you're already failing. I'm a little frustrated by it because I explained it as this is my new Pikmin 1. I got to the end of the game, and because I failed it, I can
Everyone died.
technically like go find it, but I played through so much of the game without saving that I think it was like day 16 and all the crap goes down to like day 35 or something, or day 40. Basically you're spending the whole game preparing, and then there's this really bad snowstorm that is so terrible that it actually shuts down parts of your city, and if you don't prepare for those specific things, even though it doesn't tell you what shuts down until it's happened already, and then everybody complains about things and they give you missions that are going to fail because you can't fix them, but the game doesn't tell you that until you're trying to fix them, and then you realize you're already screwed, so your discontent goes up even further, and then they execute you at the end of the game because they're pissed off about what's going on. And you can't start the generator, but we're going to kill you by putting you over a steam pipe. Let me tell you, Oh, it's so annoying. I'm so mad about it because I bumped it down. I tried for like a day to play it in regular mode, and I was getting destroyed, so I just restarted it on easy. I was crushing it. I had so much stuff in every category, and I was down to the last day of all of this happening because it's several days
Mhm.
that you're in just like negative 200-degree cold, everything's shutting down. And then they're finally like, this is your last warning, or we're going to depose you, you horrible tyrant leader. And I was like, we are all suffering together, guys. And the timer they gave me runs out like 6 hours before the storm was supposed to break. And I was just like, are you kidding me? There's nothing I can do about this. There's literally nothing because all you can do is you can build the stuff that people need with these steam cores that are super rare and you can only find it by sending people out and you can't do that when the storm is there. So you just have to suffer. And man, it is just like it's like a self-reciprocating like failure loop that I don't even know if they intended for it to be exactly that level of despairing. But man, I was so mad about it and I feel like I got bamboozled in that process, which part of me feels like was the intention and I don't appreciate it. So
It's
at
so
some point I'm going to finish it, but who knows when that'll happen.
yeah. What I love this so much, what I love so freaking much about all this is the fact that just last week I had our guest literally, I'm not joking, like literally, come to rant about her experience with Frostpunk 2. So it's funny hearing your similar experience in Frostpunk 1. So this is a great like unintentional sequel to that. So oh man. That's still so funny. I don't think I'll ever play that. That doesn't feel like it's my kind of game, but it's funny
No,
hearing the suffering. Yeah, and
jeez, what a time.
at least you got it out there. It was so funny when I read your text about that. I was like, oh, I can't wait for it. I hope Paul gets to join in because I would love for that to be like, oh yeah, it's like this Frostpunk games can be like both awesome and horrible at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, finally, the game that I've been using to kind of like my palate cleanser as I was playing Silent Hill 2 has been Marvel Spider-Man 2018. The last time I played it was last year in the lead up to 2. And it's funny how much my opinion of this game has changed for the better since the last time I played it. And the thing that made it different this time was I played it in the ultimate difficulty, so I bumped it to the hardest, but I did the New Game Plus thing. When we did the spoiler cast for 2, you had mentioned that the next time you play it, try doing ultimate difficulty and with New Game Plus, just so you could see like what's missing in 2 is heartbreaking. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it this way. And let me just say, Paul was right. Ultimate difficulty,
You heard it here first.
Yeah, the gadget wheel actually has meaning and purpose, and you absolutely need to use it. And it makes ultimate difficulty easy, quote unquote, but you still need to be in your toes because one hit can really like melt your health a lot. But I barely died playing like an ultimate difficulty thanks to having all the unlocks. And also the thing that I keep saying that it's still one issue with Spider-Man 2018 is that it has a lot of win buttons. Web Blossom and Impact Web, the web bombs and all that. It's like you like cycle through those things that you can kind of trivialize things. So you could try to make the game more intentionally harder if you don't use those tools. And at least I could kind of I finally am glad I found a way for Spider-Man 2018 I can find a use for those tools because I still stand by my criticism that the normal difficulty of that game doesn't encourage the experimentation because I've literally played through that game many times just milling my way around and just maybe using 2 gadgets that I said the 2 that I needed and just tap L1 because I never wanted to like slow myself down because movement and the flow of combat is so fun. I was like, why do I need to slow this? So I still feel that they needed that the key was just dial up the normal difficulty level to the point that you can use everything because that's what Miles Morales and 2 do. That is like at base normal difficulty, you have to use everything. So it was funny that experience you can get in the ultimate difficulty. And that to me is what ultimately makes me sad because they heat map on normal. So that's why Miles and 2 went the way they did. And it's unfortunate because like you really feel the absence of actual web gadgets like in 2. because they kept two web gadgets, which is like the trap that kind of like brings them all together, and the ricochet web. And then you obviously have like the quick ones that you can always have access to by tapping. But they had the suspension matrix. They had the like concussion thing that just pushes things around. So it's like they did keep two of the lamest, or like
They
or yeah.
literally took the worst and most out of character
Mhm.
gadgets to
For
like
two.
better help you juggle enemies of some kind. But
Uh
oh my
yeah,
goodness,
because
just
it was for them to like strengthen melee. It was gadgets. It was gadgets to make you like punch enemies more in the second game. And it's funny how in one, the webs felt the webbing actually feels like legit tools that you can use to help on your melee. So it's interesting how like they dial it back that way. So now I understand why Gadget Gate felt worse for you, because it didn't for me. I'm really interested in the eventuality I go through two again. Now be like, okay, now I get to experience this again. Will I actually feel their absence now? Or am I really okay with like the tools that they gave me in that one? Because I do love the combat in two. Is the pacing, the bugginess that I suffered in that first playthrough. And the whole third act should have the third act excitement should have been the excitement of that entire game, where I have problems with two. But I'm like, my opinion of Spider-Man 2018, I feel, has grown because of my issues with two. The story of 2018 is so good. It's so earnest. The chemistry between Peter and MJ is so good in that one compared to how it is in 2018. It feels like there's a special sauce to 2018 that it's hard to describe, but you really feel it. There's just something. 2018 is a really special game.
oh yes.
And last time I played it, I had just played Armored Core 6, so the tightness of the gameplay of Armored Core 6 and that experience kind of like weighed heavily on me as I was revisiting Spider-Man 2018. Removed from that, like I got to really appreciate what Spider-Man 2018 does, even though I do feel that I also noticed that Places 2 was actually a superior game. But that's the thing, it's like there's a weird balance. There's things 2 does best, there's things that 2018 is definitively better, but at least in story, 2018 still takes it. Is the story still very touching? It's still, specifically me, like I went on a diatribe yesterday about in regards to mainstream expectations and all that. I feel like Spider-Man 2 dumps itself down way too much in a way that 2018 doesn't. 2018 respects its players
Yeah.
so much in understanding. We know you know who Spider-Man is. We're not bogging you down with backstory. You get it. Let us just tell you this story. Let us tell you this version of the story. Let us not make you waste time going through unnecessary flashbacks when you're riding bikes and going through beats that don't tell you anything you have not seen in a movie or two before or in cartoons. That's something that it made me really respect Spider-Man 2018 more, and made me disrespect 2 more, because I'm like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, the writers lost their confidence with the second game. I don't know why. Maybe they thought they needed to dump it out as much as possible because it cost 300 million. Who knows? But it's like, I appreciate the story of 2018 even more. And I was like, it now I'm ready to say it's actually one of my favorite games of all time. Like I put it in that list because I didn't have it there, and I'm like, 2018 is a source of comfort for me. I'm still playing through the DLC. I want to play through those DLCs. Like it's just such a joy. It's like it's just so perfect as a superhero game, like for real. And I want to see how I feel with Miles, because I definitely want to do Miles again. So, but I can't think of a more perfect like antidote for the existential dread that Silent Hill 2 gives me. That they'd be like, okay, enough creepy for tonight. Let me go swing and kick enemies.
It's a
So
great palate cleanser after the
yes,
horrifying treatment of the other game for sure.
exactly. So yeah, that's all we've been playing. Paul, pretty meaty. I love it when we have like meaty stuff to talk
Yeah.
about. It definitely has got to get meatier with the
Mhm.
onslaught of games in this goddamn dry year, right?
Yep, let's go ahead and dive right into that because well, you know what? First of all, Alejandro, I want you to picture a character standing in the rain in a video game.
Mm-hmm. With
What
like
video game would that be?
standing in the rain, maybe Joel from The Last of Us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, because all of this going on, it feels like there's a character in just a torrential downpour going, seems a bit dry. Because we are uh just name no number how many games are coming out just this week?
three
Three.
big ones.
Three massive.
Yeah.
We're not just like scraping the bottom of the PSN barrel here. These are huge. Dragon Age. We've got Metaphor. We've got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and I'm gonna fight you already. And if you say that that's not included on that, it is already. I think what was it?
The most played anime game in Steam history.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that is just the Ultimate Edition people.
mm-hmm.
Only
Game
people who
comes to
spent
Friday
$100 on that game
are playing now.
are playing it right now. Yes. Yeah, it's blowing my mind just how much on the numbers category it's going to be doing. But yeah, so just kind of proving my point on there before we kind of
Mm-hmm.
continue. But
And that's
for
just this
some
month.
reason, yes,
Think
that's
about
just this month
September.
compared
Think
to
about
everything
August.
else.
Every other month we've gotten this year. Just think about that.
So yeah, that's kind of setting our stage really well because on top of that, and despite all of that, that you could say that there's a lot of really good releases. There's a lot of really highly anticipated titles that are dropping this year successfully and topping the charts sales wise and topping the ratings above 85 to 95 and above even potentially. I think actually the highest is 94.
Yeah,
But
94
anyway,
is where it stopped.
right. But despite all of that, there's an overwhelming amount of people. They're still a minority, obviously, but there's a surprisingly vocal category calling this year a dry year. And what we want to do is kind of discuss, first of all, disputing that, obviously, as I think we've already done. But more importantly, we want to discuss why this is happening. Why is this even like a subject? Why there's so many people saying this, and kind of make sense of it all. So yeah, take it away, Alejandro. I know you've gone so long talking about this back and forth
in our
so
chat.
Put it into some voiced words.
So let me put it like this.
Away.
Let me just read you some games. And I'm going to read you their Metacritic scores.
Yep.
Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, 94. Astrobot, 94. Metaphor Fantasio, 94. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, 92. Tekken 8, 90. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, 89. Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, that's 88. Persona 3 Reload, 87. Shin Megami Tensei, 87. Unicorn Overlord, 86. I think that's probably 10 games. High 80s, a lot of 90s. What is the common factor there, Paul? What does all those 10 games have in common?
They are Japanese made.
Yes. So I feel I am just gonna say it right now.
Okay, so this is your thesis.
Yeah, inadvertently speaking, I feel a lot of people are showing themselves as fucking racists because it's like Japan is delivering so many damn video games, so many in great numbers and with great quality, that there's still people that dare say that it's like a dry year with nothing. And this is even me like ignoring like Dragon's Dogma 2, 86. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, also an 86. Another Japanese game. I feel like this has been a year that really exposes how much so many people, I feel, rely too much on Western developed games. Let me read some of the Western developed games from this year really quick.
Before you do that, remind me, didn't one or two of the Yakuza games come out this year as well?
Infinite Wealth. Wealth was in 89.
Infinite Wealth. Oh, another absolute banger. Okay, yeah, continue.
Yes. And then when I look at the list of, okay, what are the Western games? What do we consider? Okay, we got Animal Well. It was made by like a Western indie single game, so that was a 91. We got Destiny 2, The Final Shape, 89. That was made by Bungie. We got Horizon Forbidden West, the complete edition for PC, 89. We got all the way down to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, 86. Silent Hill 2 is weird because it was technically Konami, but Bluer Team is like a European, so that would have been also a Japanese thing if we were like honest about it, but no. It also so it's dropped down to an 86. I had an 87. Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, 85. The Night Springs DLC for Alan Wake 2, 85. What has been the common thing about their Paul? With what I've been reading about Western devs?
I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding, we're kind of talking about the number is lower.
Yes, scored lower, and it's DLC.
True.
Helldivers 2,
Yeah.
Western Dev, one of the biggest games of this year, an 82 on Metacritic. If you were to tell me, oh, V Rising, I think it's an European that made it, 83 was
I'm gonna
also.
guess that's a
Yes.
European.
I feel a lot of people are exposing their Western game bias because they look for those. What kind of game have we not thought like has not come out here right
Not
now?
the big prestige over the shoulder
Mm-hmm.
father and son or daughter game.
Yes. And also, which publisher has not really shown up here other than in the platformer in the Japanese side?
We're talking about Naughty Dog.
Not just Naughty Dog, like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
in
I thought you said developer.
yeah, but just like in publishers, it's
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like from like PlayStation, and not even remember it's just with PlayStation first party. It's like we got like not just Concord, but I mean not just Astro, but they also released Concord. What happened with Concord, Paul?
It was
Yep.
a $400 million flop,
Flop
unfortunately.
that he got killed 11 days. That's basically getting killed in the crib.
How do you think
So
it came out for average consumers?
it came out on
Some
the 21st, and then he got killed on September 4th.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, so that's how it happened. So it's like it came out for normal consumers, and then 11 days after it was released, they released a roadmap. Here are the next season of content, and then they were like, you know what? We're deleting the game. We're refunding it. We're done and all that. So it's like, I feel what's interesting about calling like 2024 a dry year. It's like how Obi-Wan Kenobi would say in Episode 6. What I told you is true from a certain point of view. And I feel what the best thing that this has shown me is it exposes who are frauds in this like game in this gaming press industry, that they're able to like just myopically just make declarative statements about a dry year and just ignore the litany of stuff, where I haven't even mentioned like Warhammer Space Marine 2, a surprise hit for this year. I haven't even mentioned what else haven't not even mentioned in yeah, but yeah, I didn't even mention like the Rising. I mean, the Rising Deluxe Remastered was also Capcom also came out. It was pretty big, like EA Sports College Football coming in at 83. The indie scene just robust. It's so robust right now that even you have things like Crow Country coming in at like at 84. Ace Attorney coming back, like the Legend of the Legend of this RPG series.
Oh, the Marvel vs. Capcom.
The Marvel vs. Capcom collection that was like so like widely received. It's like a I see it like you can put like Metacritic top games and see like what is the top. It's like there's such a robustness to this year, such a like variety. It's like such a buffet of such incredible variety that it just really exposes how close-minded I feel a lot of gamers are to be showered like in that perfect analogy. It's like the torrential pour is there, and somehow people say that is dry. It's like I really don't understand unless you're like so laser focused on a very specific kind of game from specific publishers. It's like, I'm not saying I don't like those specific games. I'm playing Spider-Man. That's a first party game from Sony PlayStation. I like that game a lot. At the same time, Paul, who do you think has had the most exclusives just to one console this year?
That would probably be Sony.
In what's supposed to be an off year for them. This is a year where just them alone, they put out The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, that came in with like the new mode for $10 early. That's why I kicked it off. Cool. Yeah. Grand Blue Fantasy, Helldivers 2, Pacific Drive, Stellar Blade, Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that you can only play in that system. That somehow, by happenstance, Black Myth Wukong, another one of the biggest games of this year that just landed at 81, but it sold a lot, also exclusive to them. Astrobot, Silent Hill 2, 10 games exclusive to them. What were the Nintendo exclusives? Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door Remake, Luigi's Mansion 2, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the Princess Peach game from earlier this year, and the upcoming Mario and Luigi Superstars from February. What has Xbox had exclusive? Hellblade
That
2,
was Hellblade 2. Red
Ara History Unknown,
what is the vampire game?
the vampire game. That was Redfall from last year. So you're
Redfall.
not
Oh,
even.
that was last year? Oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Never
2023.
mind.
Yes, that was from 2023. This is like they had Hellblade, they had Ara History Unknown.
Yeah.
They have
They have a
Avowed was
few of
delayed.
those indies that came out.
Yes, that like Dungeons
Shoot.
of Hinter. Yeah, they had Dungeons of
Yeah,
Hinterberg.
yeah.
That technically was exclusive to them. You don't play that in that, and it was Game Pass. So awesome. So and also technically Power World early on, but you can discount it because Power World's already available. Anything in the 1.0, they just got access to the game preview version of that game. We got Age of Mythologies Retold. Avowed got delayed. Starfield Shattered Space is one of the critical bombs of the year. It got a 57 Metacritic, by the way. 57. And then like Indiana Jones, hopefully still en route in December. Dry year for PlayStation, Paul. Dry year. 10 exclusives. 10. It's insane. Like what being pedantic instead of like that you can go to someone and be like, oh yeah, PlayStation has nothing this year. Like not just laser focusing. It's like, yeah, PlayStation has nothing. I'm like, I play my PlayStation more than I've ever played it in my entire life. Like the PS5. More. I came into this year thinking, you know why I bought the Series X last December, Paul? Because conventional wisdom told me, oh yeah, this is gonna be an off year for them, but X is gonna have a more robust catalog. I want to have the best version for that. I'm excited for that. What has happened?
It's been all Sony all the time.
Yes.
And just for anybody who hasn't watched other episodes, we have absolutely crushed Sony.
Yes.
Many times.
Yes.
Very
exactly.
justifiably.
Yeah. For especially I did not like pull punches on Concord. Like everyone can go watch. Like it's like that Concord disaster is disastrous, especially from first party. From a first party perspective, yes, they have been like more quiet, but hey, look how quiet that they released a game that the critics have like all like licked the boots off, like in its entirety with Astrobot, giving it like considering one of the highest rated games of the year. That's even something that to me personally, I feel Astrobot is slightly overrated. I love Astrobot, but I don't feel it's a 94 personally. I feel if you had told me it was like an 87 to a 90 most, I would have accepted as still one of the best games that come out this year. Still so funny that it's like it's still, despite that, like it earned its spot like high up there. So it's like it's just so. I was selling
those
like,
that didn't tune in for our last episode. Do you want to kind of like very briefly explain why you're calling it overrated?
Yes. I feel Astrobot is like an excellent platformer by itself, but it's also a game that asks you to celebrate a brand that doesn't treat the IP that it's supposedly celebrating with the respect that you would expect from someone that's actually celebrating the fact that they have IPs, despite an executive saying they don't. And then like when you really think about that, and then when you see the moves that happen with PlayStation around it, it's like they're asking me to celebrate a brand that's trying to sell a $700 PS5 Pro, that's reselling us Horizon again at the end of this month. Yeah, that's going to be exclusive 11, people. Let's not forget Until Dawn. That also came out this year. It came out last week like a fart in the wind because it's worse than the PS4 version. So it's like celebrating a brand that's also kind of has not been treating its brand like with the respect it deserves. And then when you really when you see that a lot of Astrobot is about celebrating that brand, it makes you feel ickier about trying to like indulge in that celebration, despite the fact that the celebration itself and seeing the characters included can warm your fuzzies about things that you fell in game, you fell in love with gaming towards. Like remember some of the recognizing some of these characters, the level changes and all that. But it's just that then when the afterglow leaves you, it's like, yeah, this is trying to celebrate a brand. It's like, where are the things that I love that were celebrated there? Where are they currently? And then it makes you feel worse about Astrobot. Like in hindsight, it's like a sugar high, Paul. That then when the sugar high leaves, you feel disgusted. I don't know if that resonates with you. Kind of like when that kind of washes off, you're like when you're like hop on candy. That's how Astrobot felt to me. So it being a 94 feels weird, but I don't disagree that it's a great platform. It actually is. I feel like it's better than most platformers that Nintendo has put out.
I think a lot of the frustration of it is very disconnected from the kind of game it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, it's earned its flowers technically, mechanically. It is just a fantastic little platformer, as we've said in our previous episode, which you should go check out. But disconnected from all of that, it, like you said, it is a reminder and a mausoleum towards everything that Sony built itself on and refuses to acknowledge or go back to outside of telling you, hey, remember when this happened?
Yeah, member berries.
Yeah, if you don't know what that is, go look up South Park member berries and you will quite understand. And it hits a little too close to home, frankly, especially in this day and age. Yeah, I think like what we've all been saying,
circling back to dry year, it's like it's so weird that I feel this is the first time in a long time, Paul, that I feel like the discourse around the year makes me feel like I'm in Crazy Town. Makes me feel like we live in Twilight Zone, where like I feel there's like multiple Sephiroth-like realities that the Whispers of Fate have kind of like splintered off, that everyone was like living a completely different reality, where I see Aruba's catalog of excellent games, like of many shapes, many forms, and people dare say it's dry. What this tells me is that a lot of people that say that don't love video games. They don't, because it's like I question your love for video games if you see this and you find nothing. What it tells me is that you're like closed-minded. You only care about very specific things, and you don't deserve to be like sounding the klaxon and trying to add like legit discourse to something that does not reflect the reality there. I would accept, did you know what I would accept? Someone acknowledging that it's a robust year where the offerings were not for your taste. Yeah, that is very different. That is 100% valid. Like I have times where I'm like, yeah, that didn't resonate with that. It's like or like even in TV shows and movies that I'm like, yeah, I know there's been a lot, but there's nothing for me. It's like it's been kind of dry for me. But I acknowledge that it's been for me, but it's not a general sentiment. People like trying to push a sentiment that's been the year without acknowledging that no, it's your taste that has not aligned with the robust offerings and hand. And I feel that's something that needs to be combated, because I'm like, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, let's wait when then we had nothing. When things really dry up. I want to hear from you then. In fact, I wish I had heard from you back in 2021 or even 2022. So that was dry. Remember, like months with nothing. Literal nothing. I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla for 3 months because there was nothing. So
I walk with me here as I'm kind of piecing something together in my head. And hopefully it doesn't disappear in my brain, out of my brain. I think there is this subconscious, especially now, kind of attached to the idea where you can't just have an opinion. You have to convince everyone else that there is only one fact. Like there's no, obviously, subtlety. There's no middle ground.
Nuance. There's no
there
nuance.
Has to be no nuance. Where you can't just say that this spread that has been put in front of you is not just for you. It is, this is horrible, this is offensive, this is nothing. It has to be the worst thing, or it has to be the best thing. And we're kind of actually coming full circle now to the whole idea that I said, like at least a year, if not 2 years
3 years ago. 3 years ago.
God, it has been 3 years. Okay, so yeah, once again, it was a brief moment just of absolute prophecy that struck me, in that everybody's trying to find the next masterpiece. And yeah, I say that like I came up with, like no, of course it's not me. But yeah, everybody's striving after the next 10 out of 10 and nothing else. Anything that does not meet the best thing ever is just horrible. It is disappointing. It is offensive. And that is kind of just ballooning out towards every piece of media that we're experiencing now. It has to be perfect or it is just garbage. I mean, we've talked lately about our Star Wars fans and how that crowd is completely unpleasable.
Yeah, it's miserable being a Star Wars fan.
Are horrible children that are manipulating and harassing people. You should feel horrible about yourselves. You should rethink your lives. That is going to be the most offensive thing I think I will ever say, is actually genuinely getting annoyed at people. You
Yeah.
should be better. Anyway, um, there's gray areas. There's all sorts of mistakes people will make. There is no perfect piece of media. Even your favorite thing is not perfect.
My
Just,
favorite game this year is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game has a lot of problems.
I
It's
agree. I
still, yeah,
talked about them a lot.
yes. So, and I
Oh
still
god.
love it. You can
Yeah.
love something that's a flawed gem. So,
It's exactly it. Even like the concept, we're kind of getting even into like guilty pleasures. It's just it's you can just agree to like something. It's okay to like something that's not great or not
mhm.
perfect. I look at all the horror crowd. They love the worst thing you've ever seen, and even like the cheesiest, most like niche kitsch thing that is just horrible. The special effects are awful, and they're like, "This is the best movie I've ever seen." They just own it. It's great. Like, they acknowledge it's terrible, but they love it anyway. We need to be more okay like that, especially in this day and age. My goodness. But yeah, kind of pulling us back in where before we start talking about society or
Uh-huh.
anything. By the way, Joker 2 came out anyway.
Yeah,
Um
that was a great one.
we
Oh man.
we don't need to just look after the perfect, most polished game there ever was and look at every tiny detail and get frustrated about what it is. People are complaining right now about Silent Hill 2's laggy leaves.
We
There are
have
leaves that are like going across the ground, kind of pause and get a little caught, and they're just staring at it. The blaster shots not affecting water in Star Wars Outlaws,
mhm,
despite and comparing it to a game that built an entire water engine around it and was
mhm,
very limited in what it could do. People are just, they assume that whatever can be done must be done for every game
mhm.
after it.
Yeah, there's gaming illiteracy happening so like rampant right now that I'm like, is this really affecting your enjoyment of things? Like, I feel like the thing that has gotten out of control is a lot of people, very immature people, taking at face value the idea of scoring and kind of like you're saying, pursuing like the next masterpiece, that they don't understand that usually those kind of games are the most boring because they're like polished to a sheen. It's just kind of like what they're being rewarded for most is for being polished, perfect, like polished. But it's like, where's the edge? Where's the like push? Where's like the artistic kind of like expression that something is missed by just trying to pursue that next masterpiece? By just wanting everything to be a masterpiece, nothing can be. That's probably the worst part. And then you saying that you're reaching a point where a 90 is not enough in a year that has scored more 90s than even last year, the historic 2023. Oh, but they didn't score 96 like the two games that did. Two, Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate. So therefore, 2024 is mid, despite the fact that there's three 94s and a 92 there. It's insane what people like the immature people that don't deserve the air and the and like even acknowledgement that I feel like I feel like a lot of people have fallen into a trap of trying to acknowledge people that don't understand games, that they don't understand the nuance of games, and not understand that sometimes in those 80s you can find the more unique, most memorable ideas. You don't need anything to be a 10 out of 10. You need very few things to be a 10 out of 10 for those things to be special.
You know,
And I feel
something
that
else that I was thinking about is I think this is another generational issue. Not to blame
uh,
like a younger generation, but I think a lot of people forget what we had during like what people consider the golden age
mm-hmm,
of video games. I mean, which the golden age completely depends on where your perspective is, but to
mm-hmm.
me, that is the PS2 and
And the
like
Xbox and the GameCube era.
Xbox, GameCube era, because what we had and what everybody talks about, what everybody wants to remake and remaster and look back on fondly,
Is that
because those
era?
are just the pillars that survived.
Mm-hmm,
But amongst all of that, was a wall to wall football field of other games. Literally, I'm not even kidding. If you go to Best Buy back in the 2000s, if
The
you went to your,
PS2 section, God, it was
yes,
so full
it
all the
was,
time. It
you
was like,
walked for
yeah,
minutes to get to
two
the
thirds
end
of
of
a
it.
store. It was like 2/3 of a store, just PS2, and then a tiny corner of Xbox and GameCube. I remember that era.
So
Gosh.
within that was like maybe 10 games that we all will never shut up about. There's so many great games, so
Mm-hmm.
many fantastic. They're so flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them play horribly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't figure out what you're supposed to do. You had to read the instruction manual to figure out what's going on. But yet it was just not even a simpler time because it was so complex and so varied. But that is where you find art: complex, varied, confusion, frustration.
Mm-hmm.
You find something special within that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still kind of find that a lot in indies when they're not just trying to recreate exactly the games that we're referring to right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like a Balatro being a
yes,
roguelike card game, or
or like
Satisfactory, a open world factory construction game that Travis won't shut up about.
or that really weird Tron game that was made by Bithell Games,
Mm-hmm.
um, or all of the other stuff that gets made out there. Even I'll throw in the Pathless. It's a great little time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like the Pathless all that much. It came into my mind just now, but
Uh-huh.
like you get new games when you try new things, and because games did not cost as much as they do now
Mm-hmm.
to make, you could just put out so many things. You had all these developers that were just like green light anything that sounded good, even if it sounded weird. And you have like your God Hand and you're the bouncer.
Oh, God
And
hand.
I mean, shoot, Time Splitters, I don't think you'd ever get that made today.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah, or
wouldn't
Time
get any of that.
Crisis, or Time
Time
Crisis.
Crisis, you get your Bullet Storms,
Mm-hmm.
you get your Bioshocks. I don't even think we could make that again if we tried. Somebody
They've
put up,
struggled. Do you know that they're still trying to build the Bioshock? It's still
they're
in
still
development.
they're still trying to. And even the new devs that split off from BioShock are now making their own copy of
Judas.
BioShock. Yeah, Judas
Judas. Mhm.
whatever. I hope that's the title. The Judas whatever. Hang on, I had something there for a second and I think I already lost it, but it's fine. Um, there is a man, there was something there, I tell you. But it anyway, it is just disappointing to me to see how much we've lost in the pursuit of perfection.
Mhm.
And that because back in the day, it was always about you can't make perfection in graphics, so you did what you could.
And that's
And
what's
now you have,
ironic. It's like people say that they're pursuing perfection, and not even those supposedly perfect games are perfect. God of War 2018, pacing issues. Red Dead Redemption 2, controls like ass. Like
yeah,
the Last of Us Part 2 has like 10-hour and a necessary 10-hour detour. Uh
you talk about
Deathloop.
Red Dead Redemption has the prettiest coat of paint on the most PS2 game you've ever played.
Exactly. So it's like that's what's so funny that I think what's so ironic about this whole idea of like the pursuit of perfection is how false that idea of perfection truly is. The only thing that's perfect is that from a surface level look and visually it looks so prestige, but when you really dive into it, it's not. It's like that's what's so hilarious about like when people ask for that kind of perfection. And by the way, Paul, I just made the concept. You know that there's 200 games from Metacritic that are scored 75 and above. 200 games in 2024, and only 200
Oh,
games above 75 and above. What does that tell you?
yeah,
Yeah,
that just kind of gives us the answer. We can kind of
yep,
go home now.
exactly. Just think about that. It's like you have to reach 200 games to reach like, and it still goes. It's like until there's 212 games 75 and above. That means it's good to great to excellent and masterful, an entire spread.
Mhm.
It goes to show you. It's like a lot of people have like fallen so hard on the fanboy war, fallen so hard on discourse war, fallen so hard over the existence of Jeff Keighley's Game Awards that they have forgotten about having fun with your fucking video games. That's like that's exactly what has been happening in a year that has been as robust as this.
I remember what it was. So
Say it.
you remember during the heyday and start of the superhero movie craze,
Yes,
when
MCU.
every movie was afraid to call itself a superhero movie.
Yes.
We are in that stage for video games because so many people want to play video games,
Mhm.
are terrified of being reminded that they are playing a video game.
Yes. They're trying to be like so they're trying to get the how can I say this? The acceptance of others. It's like pursuing it's like a like for example, without naming names, someone saying Astrobot should win Game of the Year because it's the most mainstream option. Fuck off. No. You
That's the
reward the
important
art.
distinction.
Yes.
Not that Astrobot can win Game of the Year, but it's because
It's the mainstream option.
yeah.
Never has something required the acceptance of the mainstream to receive its artistic and like and honest accolades.
Like
That
a
should
stamp
never be
of approval.
like a step of approval. The moment you're pursuing the stamp of approval of just the masses means that you're dumbing yourself down because the truth of the matter of of trying to pursue something mainstream is that not many people in the mainstream are sophisticated enough sometimes to really like understand like more complicated, more challenging, and more complex art. Like so many people are not, and the moment that the only thing that you just want to reward is just something based on popularity and all that, it is the equivalent of over in the movie side if they would have rewarded Transformers: Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction for having been the billion-dollar grossers of 2011 and 2014. Never in TV and movie does popularity and mainstream appeal is like what defines something something having an artistic like an artistic merit. And I feel we have fallen down the popularity contest hole that diminishes video games down to popularity contests in a way that doesn't elevate them as an art form that they totally are. I've experienced many stories within games that have hit me more than a movie and TV show.
You might know this one off the top of your head. Do you remember the money comparison uh, off the top of your head between the movie industry and the video games industry?
Yes, the money comparison is like 80-20 almost how much money the game industry actually makes compared to the movie industry, and the movie industry is like highly profitable at time like in high end with many billion-dollar grossers that completely like, and that's it for a full example is like Hollywood got the wrong idea that anything needed to be a billion-dollar grosser or it was a bust, and it's like you have so out of whack there, and look where you are now with movies that you bloated your budgets to hell or high water that needed to be that bloated, and look where you are now. Like it's like nothing is like enough. It's like mistakes that are happening, and you know what sometimes pursues wanting to go the mainstream because you're spending too damn much on things too, because then it means okay now it's like we gotta recoup, so it gotta be everywhere. What does it do for the art? It dumps it down. That's what's like so funny to think about that right now gaming really, I feel some people just don't understand why Elden Ring's win 2 years ago was so significant. The Souls experience was the most niche of the niche, the most anti-gamer thing you could expect from what was expected from games. A game that didn't hold your hand, a game that doubly punished you, a game that was like as vague as they can get, and it grew itself. It became something that eventually more people discovered. Maybe, oh, I didn't know, I never wanted something like this, but I didn't know I needed this. And through that, it spiraled to the success it got 2 years ago. Conventional wisdom, Paul, if you remember, Horizon has no problem. Horizon's not going to have any trouble this time releasing next to Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is the more niche, the super hard thing. It's like it's not a Zelda thing. Zelda's more is like more mainstream, like it's more mainstream now. It's like
it makes me wonder, just to pause your thought before I forget it.
Go for it.
Do you think that Horizon's developers had the audacity and the arrogance to think exactly what you're saying? Like they did it on purpose because they thought they were going to beat Elden Ring because that was the niche, difficult game, quote unquote.
and theirs was going to be the mainstream, more mainstream appeal,
The big
super pretty thing. Yeah, exactly. And it was like literally what that was in their minds is like, thank God Zelda's not here. We don't have competition anymore. Now we could get to shine our light. And
So
look
I
what
don't know,
happened.
like the whole time I've just kind of been giving them the benefit of the doubt of like, oh, they just kind of they screwed up. They just tried their best and they had nothing else because I remember that was a pretty busy ish time. I know it was on the front end of a
Dude,
lot of crazy
we
stuff, but
got we got like that. No, Dying Light 2, Seafood, Destiny 2, Witch Queen, Elden Ring, like Horizon was like all within like 2 weeks of each other. So it was still
yeah.
a pretty packed thing. And before Elden Ring, Horizon was the highest rated game at the moment in 2022. I remember feeling confident, be like, thank God. And then I started hearing the rumblings of Elden Ring. It's like, oh, Paul, I'm hearing some rumblings about that Elden Ring, I tell you. And
We
then,
were gonna not get it.
yes, because it was going to be, I don't think we're in the mood for something this hard or something like that. And it's like, and to think about it, it's like, Elden Ring didn't dumb down its design. The artistic merit that was a Souls game remained at its core. It was just made an open world, but it didn't change what it was. And the masses, what happened? They took to it because this was something that they didn't know they needed. It's just so funny. It's really funny to think about that. Not just because it suddenly became a popularity contest that dumbed itself down to go to spread itself out more. It had confidence in its artistic idea to hope that then there will be discerning audiences that understand quality and go to there. Not just think about the only thing that is quality is if your camera is behind over here, if you can see the peach fuzz in someone's face that took 3 years to make, and you're pretending to be Hollywood. A lot of people think like that. And it's the lack of that is why a lot of people are saying that this is a dry year because you're not getting a bunch of that. You're not getting games like that. And guess what? I feel a lot of people are more discerning. Like that's the thing. There's a lot of vocal continue that saying it's a dry year. But you know what also hurts me? There's a lot of people that are like us, Paul. I've seen it. People make fun of people that dare say it's a dry year. They do. In fact,
I'm glad that there is actually a majority out there that understands that.
yes.
And it's just a really vocal minority on a dying internet platform that really thinks that.
Yes, and not only that, it's from also from sites that all keep dying. Some of these sites that are parroted, what the hell is with this year? They're gone. Literally. They died all this year. A lot of them. What does that tell you? Their relevancy is being depleted because their biases are showing, and it's not the reality that the consumer at hand is experiencing. The consumer at hand is experiencing almost 200 games of legit good to great to excellent and amazing quality. Well, dry year though. I'll always make fun of people, and that's the thing.
Dry year.
And think about it. That's the dry year. Imagine 2025. Gosh, it's like I can't even fathom like even something like that because that's even extra robust, and this was already robust. Last year was also robust, but 2024 was more interesting, way more interesting, better conversations to have, more like artistic things, kind of like a merit to like discuss of things. I'd much rather that than just rewarding the shiny thing. And and the thing is, the beautiful is even then. I think what was last year's winner?
Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. Conventional wisdom, is that a mainstream thing, Paul? Tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, the game? No.
What a time we've come, or what a journey we've come, distance we've come. There we go. That is the game. The game about the devil worshipping dice rolling game that was just so horrifically hated in the 80s and 90s.
Yes. And then suddenly, and look, that was like a massive success, both critically and then commercially after its wins.
I need my financial compensation for all of the bullying that all of our generation received for mildly liking anything nerdy at all.
Yes.
But also especially anything related to D&D, because I was even one of those, like, at least I'm not one of them. I like anime. I'm a normal person.
Yes. Oh man. But yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, it's like I feel saying that unequivocally this is a dry year, in a year that I already saw there's 200 total games with the green color 75 up, is like you cannot you cannot say that like in good honest thing. And anyone that even remotely tries to like even say that there is a point to that, it's like he's just not living in reality. You're just living in a bubble. You're just living in complete ignorance, and it exposes that you don't really love the gaming medium if a year as robust as this, like you're there having that kind of discourse. Be more open and at least elaborate better. Oh, the cinematic expensive game that I like is not here. I only like that game because it's not that, it's been dry for me. That is valid. That is 100% valid because it's the taste. I understand like you like a specific kind of game, you didn't get it. Them's the breaks. Feel sorry for you. Can't relate at all because I've just been super busy with the things I had. But anyone that wants to like be more nuanced and be like, oh yeah, this is a year where Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation, as they usually show up, didn't quite show up. Yeah, that's worthy of conversation. Did it make this a PS5 like a year where PS5 had nothing? No. Look, I listed 11, 12 exclusives that you can only play in that system, and only 3 are remasters and remakes. Just saying. So it's like I feel like this is a wild ass wacky year that you can like so easily counteract by the reality. It's so funny. It's like perception has not been reality with this year, and I'm glad at least with the things that have been successful and how much success we're finding from unlikeliest of places. Is like it's proving this continuously, like slowly more irrelevant people that are parroting these talks in official places wrong. And the fact that a lot of those outlets are closing says it all. So, Paul, with that in that note, read as it releases for October 13th to October 19th.
All
But
right.
there's many games. There's another list of games for this very dry year.
Yeah, right. All right, we've got New World Eternum on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S on October 15th.
Mhm.
Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition on PS5, Xbox Series X and S on October 15th. Neva, N-E-V-A, on
Mhm.
PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch on October 15th. A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S on October 17th. Unknown 9 Awakening on PC, PS4, 5 on Xbox One and PSX, Xbox Series X, dang it, and S on October 17th, and Super Mario Party Jamboree on Switch October 17th, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Unleashed on PC, PS4, and 5, Switch, Xbox Series X and S on
Yeah,
October.
another dry week for another dry year, right, Paul? Uh, New World Eternum is like the MMO from Amazon that's making its way to console, so that's
I do
coming out.
remember that,
Yeah,
yeah. Is it
the dark.
just the same game but
It's the
subtitled
same
differently?
game with more content.
Okay.
The content that they had been promising to the PC community, and then they kind of went quiet because they were just putting it in other systems. So the PC community was like kind of incensed to be like, oh, so that's why we were waiting, because you were just trying to expand this for other systems, the typical elitist like gatekeepers. So Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition. Fun fact, if you own Darksiders 2 on PS4, you get the PS5 version for free. Unlike the Harry Potter collection for Lego that came out last week, that if you own the PS4 version, you have to pay $20 for the PS5 version of that. Neva is from the creators of Gris. That in the indie,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, got it.
and that was in the PlayStation Showcase from 2 years from last year. Well, fun fact, a guy that's reviewing it, his name is Andres Plays 93, who joined Season Gaming recently. He's called Louis. He's from Mexico. He's reviewing this one.
Hey,
So,
nice.
I was gonna have him in the show this week, but then you came back, so I might have him next week. Who knows? He might be able to talk about that one. Unknown 9 Awakening is this third-person Dishonored-like game that we saw in one of Keely's things that got dated, that looked interesting. I'll be fascinated to see how it happens. Where I feel like I feel we finally have settled in, Paul, on what we really want, and now we have to start putting things on. Let's wait for the Black Friday sales. If we want something else, that would be one. And obviously Mario Party is Mario Party. This is the one that's like blowing up Mario Party. So that's another Switch game for Switch is dry. Wait for Switch 2 here. And TMNT game that looks better than the TMT garbage game that I reviewed earlier this year. So yeah, that's it for this week. I love this meaty episode, Paul, because this makes up for the almost month that you were off. Due to extraneous
We did it. Now I'll
yeah.
disappear once again into the ether. You'll never see me again.
Don't joke like that, because especially with this hurricane season. But
gosh, right.
Paul, that brings us to conclusion for this week's episode. Where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me on Twitter at Dork of Art. I just reblog things and repost and retweet. That's the word. Every once in a while, I post a video gameplay of me breaking a game, but of course, because PlayStation took Twitter off of that ability, that's been a little
Hmm.
difficult. So, working on that. But one day, I'm praying that we come back. In any case, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter at a_Segovia, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on threads, and my written content at thecriticalcorner.com, where some of my old stuff resides, and seasongaming.com, where my current written content resides. You can read my reviews for The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster, Granblue Fantasy Relink, uh, Skull and Bones, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16 The Rising Tide, uh, the TMNT Mutant Arcade Wrath of the Mutants garbage thing that I always forget it does a full name. That I also did a review for that, for Stellar Blade, a review for Star Wars Outlaws, and an editorial that I'm still waiting to see if it's gonna be posted about how Space Marine 2 is old things taught anew. What's my next review? I still don't know. Maybe Silent Hill 2 if I'm not too chicken to finish it like on time. But I tell you, it's like I thought I could, but I was like, yeah, I'm a real chicken for real survival horror that's oppressive. But Paul, glad to be able to have you again. I love having this robust conversation about things that we're passionate about, not just reading sad news like we used to do before. That Game Informer had to die for us to start reading news because they were the best at it for us. But those people are working on good places, especially my favorite Wesley LeBlanc. He's a PR guy that has contacted us over at Season Gaming, so we might receive more stuff. But yeah, Paul, thank you so much for being here. Glad we got to record this early, right before we're gonna have an onslaught of content to devour soon.
Oh my goodness.
And for everyone else, if we have listeners in Florida, my thoughts aren't you. Like, I'm really scared for Milton, guys. Like for real.
If you're in Florida, get out, please.
Get out, please.
You've lived through enough hurricanes. I've been there with you. I know you think you can handle it, no matter how big it is. Please get out.
Yeah, Cat 5, not a joke. Like
get out of there, man.
Yeah, just look at the pictures. It's like just look at 10 feet. It's supposed to be 10 feet of like flooding.
Some people said 15.
So yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to be like, you have to
get out, please. Get out, please. Go. Just stop listening to this. Leave.
Yes.
Go home.
Yeah, go home. Definitely
home.
Stay safe. And everyone else, enjoy the rest of October as we're like nearing the holidays. God, we really are nearing them. That's scary. Close. Yeah, and then 2025 will be here. But yeah, until then, people, play some games, stay safe, and
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.